I'm Fatima Whitbread, and I've been fortunate enough to have 2 careers in my adult life. My first as a gold medal winning athlete, and my second as a reality TV star. But my start to life was far less fortunate. I was abandoned as a baby, and some would say left to die. The next 14 years of my life were spent in children's homes, and some of the memories from back then still haunt me now. And I can remember screaming, and then she'd come out with a knife and holding it to my throat. Shut up, shut up, shut up. The care system has changed a lot since my day, but every 22 minutes a young person is still taken into care.
They were so out of date and they were so disgusting that the fish had went green. And we used to have to eat these.
How parents can do that to their own, or to any child. I want to show people that growing up in care doesn't mean that you can't have a future.
Without him, I could be in prison, causing trouble. I owe him my life, everything.
But it's not going to be easy for me. I don't want to go through that too much, to be honest, because that's kind of like really hard to deal with. I was an international athlete for many years, until a shoulder injury ended my career prematurely in 1989. I'm retired now, but I've never lost the competitive edge. I am the winner! Yes! Whether it's playing golf with my son, or making cupcakes with my best friend. Look at that! That's a masterpiece. That's the best one there. Yes!
The trouble is, on most of these competitions, you're the only one who's aware that it's a competition and it's over. And it's like, oh, brilliant.
Very true. I'm a single mum and have a hectic life, but my garden is a place I can relax. What's nice about this garden, it's got a bit of everything because it's got colour, plants. It encourages different birds, bees, butterflies.
You say you're quite a sensitive soul.
I suppose I am. I mean, I don't go around hugging trees, but I certainly like, nurturing the garden and, nature. But life hasn't always been like this. As a baby, I was abandoned and left to die. I spent the next 14 years of my life in children's homes until I was adopted. This was the beginning of a new life. I often think how important it was for me to have been given that chance in life. And when I look at it, it's really difficult to quantify, the depth of my feeling and emotion, what it did for me, and how much I appreciate what my parents gave to me in those years. And I'll never really be able to truly thank them for that. Come in, Mum. And nearly 40 years later, our relationship is as strong as ever.
Oh, look at that one where he's giving you a hug and a kiss.
That's because he saw me in the fridge, remember?
Yeah.
Christmas eating the chicken.
That's a lovely picture of you, that one.
Yes,
isn't it? Don't you think?
The Whitbread family gave me a future when I thought I'd had none. My God, Mum, I can't believe we're wearing hot pants.
Mine are just tight shorts.
I actually got into hot pants. I used to love them. And they've always considered me as their daughter and big sister. Only looking back on these photos, really.
Oh, it
brings a lot of memories as well. The happy days. We're lucky, aren't we, Mum?
We are.
We've had a great life together.
We have.
It's a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Yeah. And
I thank you for help making that possible, Maya.
Yeah.
Because without you...
Oh, you know what I've always said? It was a fantastic situation that was for everyone in our family.
Well, we've all been lucky to find one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mum gets emotional just talking about the life she gave me, but it's the years before that she really gets upset with. And taking part in this documentary will mean I'll be digging up some old memories that I've kept buried for a very long time.
But it's just the thought of you having to go through those experiences again.
Don't get upset.
No, I can't help it.
I know.
You know, and I don't like the thought of you having to recall all those bad moments of your life. That's all right. I'll be okay.
I know Mum is worried about what I'm about to do, but I want young people to see how I turn my negative childhood experiences into a positive adult one, and show how growing up in care doesn't have to limit your future. So I'm returning to my first children's home, where I lived until I was 5 years old. When you're that age, you do start to think that there's something wrong with you, nobody wants you, and you feel a bit of an outcast. And you can't sort of look at having one thing that is your own for a comfort. It's really, actually, it's quite upsetting. But first, I'm meeting Corrie. She was a 16-year-old girl who worked at the children's home, and I haven't seen her for nearly 20 years. Hello. How are you? You right, Corrie?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? It's lovely to see you.
It's a long time.
Come in.
My God, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
mate. Love this place. Oh, wow, look at this. Love your garden, Corrie.
All my own work.
Look at it. It's really lovely. That's a lovely picture. Look at my little pot belly. How old would I have been there?
You was only 2.5, 3 years old then.
Quite big, really. I think a lot of the time, though, Corrie, it's probably I was vying for your attention.
You asked me if I could be your mummy.
I was asking.
I was only 16. You desperately wanted a mummy. You all right?
Yeah, it's a bit emotional.
Yeah. Big box.
It's quite like you suddenly see it again, you know? It's really, you try and keep it, it's in your memory, but you try not, I mean, looking at these pictures, one of the most obvious things to me was such a lot of unhappiness, you know, sadness within the kids. It's a private house now, but 50 years ago this was my first children's home. My very first memories come from inside this building. Here you go, Corrie. Same staircase, Corrie.
This was your playroom.
My God. This is the play area where I used to play with about 9 other children. Most of them were split around the house, and our little group was here. And this little window here, I used to stand, I probably was only no higher than this. So leaning against the window with my chin on the window ledge, looking out. You know, I mean, I'd be looking at every lady that would come into the house, the cleaners, whatever, and I used to say, is that my new mummy coming to get me? Strange feeling. I kind of feel a pit, sort of tightness in my stomach. And I think that's probably the feeling of knowing all those years ago that emotionally I was probably unstable. I'm Fatima Whitbread. I want to learn how the care system works today, and by sharing my story and meeting young care leavers, I hope to show growing up in this way doesn't mean you can't have a future. Around 90,000 young people pass through the care system every year, and in 2011, the amount of young people needing to go into care was the largest ever recorded. But I left the care system 40 years ago, so today I've come to London to meet some young people that have more recent experience.
Hi Fatima, welcome, come in, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Come through, the young people are just in here. Come in.
Hi guys, how are you? Nice to see you all.
This is Kirby.
Hi Kirby. Nice to
This
see
is
you.
Zion
Zion.
and Arena.
Mate, how you doing? Nice seeing you too.
Come and have a seat.
Yeah, I'll just take my coat off. So. But it's clear a lot of these young people are going into care for a very good reason. Arena, I couldn't help but notice, and tell me to mind my own business if you will, your arms. One of them is very badly scarred and the other one seems to be shorter. Would that have been through any abuse in your childhood?
Yeah, I got burnt when I was about 3.5, 4. And this is where my arm was broken. There was a lot of stuff that happened and that went on. As a result, I was put into care.
When I was in care, it was about longevity, so it became more institutionalised. I think we did longer sentences than some of the prisoners do today. Yeah? But with you guys, I mean, placements does it mean going to like foster homes?
Yeah, it's more family-based.
Yeah.
They're trying to, I think, normalise a child's life in care as much as possible. So they're trying to put them in a family setting.
These young people are being saved from harm, but entering the care system can sometimes be the beginning of more problems. And Sarah sees this all the time.
Stability is a really big issue for young people. They share that with us a lot, and quite often children have lots of different placements, so their experiences of perhaps living in quite a secure and safe permanent environment and then being moved, and I think that's a big problem with the care system. I think permanency is a really big issue for young people.
Young people in care appear to be constantly on the move, and Kirby is no different.
I was fostered by a white family at the age of 6, up until about 12 or something, and they treated me like I was their own daughter. And the only reason I got moved from that place was the cultural issue, the fact that I was black and they was white, and social services felt that I needed to be with a black family that understood me, but actually I was fine with them.
Basically what any child wants is the love and the security of a good home.
Definitely.
So how religion and culture come into it, at times it beggars belief, really. But living in care can mean you always have to be on your best behaviour.
Sometimes you have to bite your tongue because actually the next day you might be out the door. You can't really have a lot of bickering and a lot of disagreements, because the bottom line is it's not your family and they don't really have to keep you. Like they can sort of get up in the morning and say, do you know what, it's not working out, they just can't do it anymore, you just have to get up and leave.
Sarah believes the emotional support of these young people is the #1 priority.
The fundamental question is how are relationships being nurtured and supported and set up? The ones that are enriching, the ones that they will value and that will see them through into adulthood. And the only way that is ever going to happen is by listening, not to the surface level conversations, I need, I want, this doesn't work, but what the concern is under that, which is always, I don't belong, I'm not good enough, I don't feel wanted and I don't feel loved.
The care system seems to have come a long way since my time in children's homes. But some things haven't changed. Young people's emotional needs are still not being met. But it's important to remember, growing up in care isn't all doom and gloom. Today I'm returning to my second home where I lived until I was 14. And driving around the neighbourhood is bringing back some happy memories of my childhood. It's where Keith lived, my first boyfriend, when I was about 10, 11. And I remember picking him up and putting him on the wall, because he was only little, picking him up, putting him on the library school wall, and I gave him a kiss. How funny. And this is the park that I used to cut through. If I had some Woodbine cigarettes, I used to go through the park. So I didn't let anybody see me. I was a bit naughty. In the 80s and 90s, many children's homes were sold off to make way for fostering. Though this is no longer a children's home, but the gardens where I used to play as a kid are still here. And today I've brought along my friend Tony. And this tree here, this is the one I used to climb up mainly. It was always a job knowing how to get up a tree like this, right? So you'd really...
Please tell me you're not going to do it now.
No, I'm not going to do it now, but you used to have to really get yourself in there and put your hand up here and then sort of monkey climb up the tree. So there was always a way up it. It looks impossible, but that's why I like tasks. Because I used to, like, sit up the tree in the summer season, watching life go by. You could see you down the road, just sitting there, yeah, maybe eating a couple of apples that you just scrumped. Or you got your bag of sweets and you're just sort of passing time around here. It's really nice.
So this place was a much happier place than your first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was my home for the duration until I became a Whitbread. I do have fond memories of this place, but I also have some upsetting ones. A few times during my childhood, social services tried to reconnect me with my biological mother. And one weekend visit to London when I was 11 will always stay with me. All I got told was to scrub the floor, go and clean up and do this and do that. And then obviously, during the course of that visit, I was sexually assaulted by the mother's lover. And I can remember screaming, a little small coffee table hit over my head, and then she'd come out with a knife and holding it to my throat, and a neighbour was knocking on the door. So sorry. After that, it's horrible, isn't it? And it's taken me a very long time to get over what happened. Today, I've returned to North London. I haven't been back here for nearly 40 years. This is it. I instinctively feel and know that this is the place. It's an eerie feeling standing here now, looking up to that flat and what went on during that weekend. Quite scary. If you'd have asked me to come back 20 years ago, I would have definitely said no. Absolutely not, because I wasn't strong enough, I don't think, even then, to deal with my emotions on this level. The biological mother, really, I mean, I don't think, in my view, was fit anyway. I don't want to go through that too much, to be honest, because that's kind of like really hard to deal with.
Glad you came?
Yeah, really pleased. Yeah. Nice feeling, but just to be able to say that's the end of it. Final chapter. End of the story.
Bit emotional.
Yeah, really emotional. After meeting Irina and Kirby in London, I felt that the care system still isn't looking after the emotional needs of young people. So today I've come to Newcastle to meet a young woman who was fouled by the care system for a very long time.
Hi.
Hello, you must be Claire.
I am, yes, nice to meet you.
My name's Fatima.
Hello, would you like to come in?
Yeah,
I'm good,
sure.
how are you?
I'm fine.
Would you like tea, coffee?
Tea, milk, sugar. Thanks.
Awesome, milk and sugar?
Yeah,
Just
please,
one
yeah.
sugar?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I shouldn't really, because I'm an athlete, or was. Everyone says, you don't take sugar, do you? I say occasionally. Depends if I'm on a really big fitness kick. At the age of 2, Claire was taken into care. and was passed through 43 different placements in just 5 years.
There was a mix of some that were a day long, a couple of weeks, a couple of months.
How did you deal with that? Because you can't really get settlement or build relationships properly. And
I don't think I did do it.
Feel insecure
all the
time.
It was incredibly lonely, and I couldn't trust anyone, and I didn't get the love that I deserved as a child.
That's an awful feeling. Just tell me a little bit more about your early days.
It was a case of two parents that weren't capable of parenting. There was alcohol abuse, there was physical abuse, both to my mother and to the children. It was a poor household, and whatever money we did have went towards alcohol. She used to give us food that was unsuitable for anyone to eat. I specifically remember I can't even eat them to this day, but they're fish fingers, and they were so out of date and they were so disgusting that the fish had went green. And because there was no other food in the house, or she didn't have any food, or she didn't want to buy any food, we used to have to eat these because there was nothing else to eat. So it was a case of we had to try and survive, but to the best that we could, and the only option was to eat something that was as grotesque as that.
How parents can do that to their own, or to any child.
It's heartbreaking to think that you can look upon a child and think, I'm going to drink a can of beer rather than feed you.
Yeah. At the age of 12, Claire cut all ties with her biological family. But she's agreed to take me back to the neighbourhood where she used to live.
I think this was the row anyway. I think it was that house there.
Her biological parents no longer live here, but just like returning to my first care home, Claire's physical memories of living here are hazy.
Yeah, it's either one. I can't remember which one, but yeah, it's definitely one or.
But the emotional ones are still very strong.
I remember the abuse that we suffered here. There was lots of aggression. The starvation that we suffered as a child. I remember this is the green fish finger house. The more I think about what happened here, the more it's having a little bit of an impact. It's really strange to discover the emotions that I've probably kept hidden for quite a while. Yeah, it's scary, to be honest. It makes me think, if I had have stayed here and I had have grown up here, what would I have turned out like?
Claire's life has changed dramatically since she was a young girl. When she was 16, she decided to take the name of her foster mum. It was down to this positive influence that in 2007 she eventually went to university. And Claire will always be grateful for what her new family has done for her.
They're the most incredibly inspiring people I think I've ever met in my entire life, and they saved my life, and I'll thank them for the rest of my life as well.
In my early days, sport was my saviour, as it gave me something to focus on away from the children's home. And it was a chance meeting with a javelin coach when I was 12 that changed my life forever. So today, I'm returning to that same athletic track with my friend Tony.
It is really buzzing over here. I can imagine it was, quite addictive.
See, they're really working hard. Come on, boys. It's so nice. It takes me back to my early days, actually. I'm known for my javelin throwing, but back then I was a very competitive netball player. I remember during one school match I was told off for shouting and was nearly thrown off the court. After the game, I came down to this athletic track. When we eventually arrived, there was this very tall, blonde-looking boy, and I thought, oh, he's nice, I'll go over there. So I walked over to the javelin runway, and then I saw this javelin on the floor, and I thought, oh, it looks quite interesting. So I went to pick it up, and he said, you can't do that. Sit in the stand, he said, and wait for the coach to come. And I thought, well, I sat in the stand waiting, and all of a sudden this car pulled up into the car park, and he said, there she is. And I'm sitting there looking, thinking, as she got out of the car, and I went, oh no, it's that same woman who was on the netball court who threatened to chuck me off. Well, she said, if you want to throw, I don't want any of that cheek that I got on the netball court, she said, and that sort of behaviour. She said, we can't be tolerating that over here. After a few weeks of training, the coach spotted that I had a natural talent, and without parents to buy them for me, she gave me some boots and a javelin to train with. Overexcited, I ran back to the children's home. Move out of the way, I said, I'm going to give it a really good throw this time. So she moved out of the way and I went bang, and this javelin flew, smash, right through the French windows. I was grounded for a month, but the coach had thought I'd stolen her javelin. So one night I wrote her a letter. I wrote on this envelope, sorry I've not been able to come up to the track because I smashed the French windows with my javelin and I've got a month's ban, so I'm not able to come. I said, but one day I'm going to be the best javelin thrower in the world. At the time, I had no idea how prescient these words were to become. The coach's name was Margaret Whitbread, and she would eventually go on to train me to become a gold medal winning athlete and, of course, become my mum. So that would be about 45 metres, that?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not bad. And I still remember how I felt that day I was given the boots and that javelin. That's the first thing that somebody had ever given me. And I don't think that, you know, I mean, I could have been more excited about anything else.
No, that's true.
Honest.
Yeah. You thought you'd won £1 million,
Yeah.
didn't you? You know, the look of joy on your face was just totally amazing.
Yeah.
But you were adamant, wasn't you, that that's what you wanted to do. You broke the district record here, didn't you?
That's right,
you
39 metres.
39 metres, that's right. And I don't think it was because I was marking at the other end. No, it was, you know, you had a really sort of fantastic talent and you decided that you wanted to throw at a higher level. So that was it. I went ahead and you had a little go. Oh, they're wonderful moments to remember, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I was one of the lucky ones. If it wasn't for my mum, things could have turned out very differently for me. It's easy to forget that young people in care are some of the most vulnerable in our society. And mixed with a care system that's neglecting their emotional needs can create a lot of angry young people. Today, I'm in Colchester to meet Liam. He's now 24, but it was the abuse he suffered at home that made him one of these very angry young men. So Liam, at home, what kind of experiences did you have to face, you know, as a child with Dad?
Well, he enjoyed his drink a bit, and he did like to get a bit trigger happy with his belt and his hands. I remember one time he hit me so hard on the back of my leg, he left an indentation of his ring with his initials on my leg.
Was there any time that you felt like you wanted to thrash out yourself?
I only ever did it once. My mum was pushing me around the kitchen because I hadn't cleaned up, and then she kind of got me into like a headlock, and then I punched at her, and I punched her where she just had an operation, and then I run away, and that's the day that social services put me into care.
Liam was 14, and it was around this time he went to live with Jim, his foster carer.
I've given him such a hard time, and probably some bad memories, but I've also...
What's some of those bad memories, Liam?
There was one. One night, I was that annoyed, I was standing there at the top of the stairs waving a hockey stick in his face, telling him I was going to fucking smash his head in. And he just stood there. He just stood in my face and went, what's that going to achieve? He just didn't flinch, didn't do nothing. I mean, if someone come running at me with a hockey stick, waving it about, I think I'd be like, hello. But he just stood there. He earned so much respect at that point because he wasn't going to take nothing. He was there for the long haul. I owe him everything. Without him, I could be in prison, causing trouble, and to Jim, I owe him my life, everything. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Liam moved out of Jim's 8 years ago, but the 4 years he spent with him have clearly had a profound effect. Let's have a chat. It's nice, isn't it? I like this.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, you must be Jim.
Hello. Hi, come in.
Come in. Nice to see you, sir.
Come through.
Jim has been a foster carer for 18 years and was the first single man to ever become one. I like that slogan there. Respect your elders, your time will come.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we're getting there.
It's very true. It's very, very true indeed, yeah.
You two must feel quite strange standing here so many years later.
Well, it doesn't seem as if time's gone by, to be honest, Fatima. It's just like yesterday.
So, I mean, tell me a little bit about him. He's told me a lot about you.
He was an absolute charmer, as most young people have come to live with me after the first 6 weeks. And then after that, he started to see how far it would be before I'd throw him out, which I didn't. It was tough, because he was a very, very angry young man, for every good reason. And the only way he knew to deal with that anger was to try and take it out on me and see if I was going to reject him in the same way as he'd felt rejected. There was an occasion where he managed in my tiny little cottage to stand in front of me with his hockey stick, and it frightened the living daylights out of me. I'm thinking, what the hell have I done? And actually, what have I done now? And he said something like, "You're not my effing mother." I said, "No, I'm not. But swinging that round's not going to make any difference. You know, let's talk about it when you're ready." And eventually he put it down, and eventually we talked. Now, till now, I can't remember what we talked about, and I don't even know what triggered it at that moment.
But foster caring is not just about dealing with these outbursts, it's about creating a loving family home.
And that's what my role is as a foster carer, as a carer, as a quasi-parent.
That's what's so unique about what you've offered these young people, you know, the ability to have family life.
My role is to give him a good role model and to give him an opportunity to make some choices between what he saw previously and what he saw when living with me.
Liam lived here for 4 years, but from what I've learnt, young people in care are constantly on the move. And during his time as a foster carer, Jim has looked after over 80 young people.
Some youngsters will only come for an hour, and so I'm not staying in this dump a minute longer, because it's not for them. It's hundreds of miles from civilisation as far as they're concerned. Others only come for a week or two, but they're all counted as the young people I've seen. So consistently through that have been about 12 to 15 people who've stayed for at least a year and onwards, and some who keep coming back.
This is not just a day job to Jim. It seems to me this is about creating his own extended family. To be honest, I mean, you've gifted your life to fostering, and for how many Liams you must have saved. I mean, really, from the bottom of my heart, from all those children, thank you, because you've done a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
And I've got greatly respect that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's really great.
Thank you.
Meeting Jim has really inspired me. If it wasn't for him, Liam could be in a very different place. It's a simple fact that if you grow up in care, you are more likely to go to prison than you are to go to university. And this is really crucial. For those children to survive, they need the love and support of a good home and somebody who intuitively knows what that child needs. There are 90,000 children passing through the care system every year, but there is a shortfall of nearly 9,000 foster carers. The simple answer is we need more people like Jim to give these children better opportunities. Just like Liam and Claire, who I met a couple of weeks ago, I too was rescued from a very uncertain future. got rid of the wood then.
When my mum adopted me, I had spent 14 years in children's homes. Eventually I moved here to my first family home. Mum and I haven't been back here since we moved out over 20 years ago.
My God, look at this.
You're getting a little bit upset, aren't you?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Oh, it's quite eerie to walk into the house that you first came to with a family. And I can honestly say it feels smaller, much smaller than what I remember it to be, but it doesn't take away the emotion that you feel from being in your first home, as it were. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
It is totally different, Mum. That was my bedroom. That was a sofa bed. And I used to have all my cuddly toys all the way along that sofa. It was all new to me. I was just so pleased to be able to have my own room, you know, my own bedroom without sharing it. Watch this step.
What's the kind of happiest memories you have of this place?
I think the fact that we were all together enjoying family life, and they were the memories for me. To have this chance in life, which was given to me at that age, I mean, I never thought it would have happened. To be honest, Mum, you know, without you coming into my life when you did, and you having the courage and the strength of character to do what you did, I mean, I wouldn't be standing here before you now, would I? You and Dad did for me what, you know, what
It
I
doesn't
really...
matter because it wasn't about her athletics.
Yeah, no, but it can be like...
It was her being a daughter first and foremost. I didn't want you to be a thrower, did I?
I know that.
I wanted her just to have a normal, what I called a normal life.
Come, let's go and have a look down here. Come on. Watch that step. Yeah. Don't get upset, all right?
It's a funny feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, it's part of life that you never forget. It always stays with you.
I know. I'm a bit tired now, though.
I understand. It's emotionally draining. It's a lovely feeling to actually come back here. I was only in my teens, and it was all fresh for me, you know. It was a nice opportunity to make new friends. Building relationships like that were quite important at the time. For me, you know, obviously, I mean, training out here, I saw all my neighbours. Veronica at 114, and definitely it was a turning point in my life. It took me, I think, 12 years before I won my first major title, so 12 years of running up and down this stretch here or going to the track, training with the athlete sprinters. But I loved it, loved every minute of it. I've spent the last few weeks learning about the care system and how growing up in care doesn't necessarily have to define you. It's taken me years to get over what I went through as a child, and I want to pass on a little of what I've learned. Today I've come to London to see Claire, who I met in Newcastle. Every 22 minutes a child goes into care, and Claire has invited me to an event to promote the need for more foster carers in the UK. And this evening she will be doing a speech about her experiences. This is a coming of age, I think, tonight. She will need to stand up and be confident about what she's doing. And why not? As I said to her, really, at the end of the day, only she knows what it's like. It's no better person to talk than somebody who's experienced it at first hand. But I'm not the only one here for Claire.
She's also brought along her foster sister Kirsty for some moral support. Hi girls, how are you?
Hello.
How are you doing, Claire? Nice to see you. This is your sister?
Yes, this is Kirsty.
Kirsty,
Very
how are you
nice
doing, Kirsty? Nice to see you. I'm really well. How are you coping? How's everything?
It's excellent. It's all been really fun and it's exciting since we met. How are you?
I'm fine. I've been thinking about you a lot.
Oh, really?
I'm just kind of thinking, how are you after the event that we did in Newcastle?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you put everything to bed now?
Absolutely, yeah. It was strange the next day. I was very reflective over everything that we'd done. And then I was talking to my mum, I was talking to my sister, and it was really nice I appreciated everything that I've got. And everything is in the past now, and it's all settled and it's done.
Well, it's nice because you can put that well in the past now and then move forward. I mean,
Exactly.
obviously you've got a lovely family. I'm really glad Claire feels that our meeting a few weeks ago has helped her. But I'm keen to hear from Kirsty what it was really like when Claire first joined the family.
I was about 20 at the time, so I sort of already left home and was at university, I think. And I came home for Christmas one year and there Claire was in my bedroom, so it was quite interesting.
What made your mum want to foster? Because she already had you and you were quite grown up already.
Part of it was wanting to give something back, and part of it was wanting to earn a living doing something that she loved.
This is the launch event for Foster Care Fortnight, a 2-week fostering awareness campaign. To speak in front of all these people is a huge step for Claire, but she's a success story and an example of how the care system and fostering can change people's lives. Fortunately, Jim, who I met a few days ago, is also here and clearly understands how big a moment this is for Claire.
It's now my great pleasure to introduce to you Claire Marshall. Claire is a fashion designer from Newcastle, and I'd like personally, as well as for all of us, to thank her for sharing her story and helping us to make foster care better. Claire.
Claire has come through a lot to get where she is today.
I went through 43 placements within 5 years during possibly the worst time in any young child's life. From the age of 2 to 7, I had so many different families there to take me, yet each and every single one didn't succeed. As a child, all I wanted was a family to call my own. I was placed with the most amazing family I could have hoped for.
And it's clear how grateful Claire is for the new life they gave her.
They took care of me like no other family had. They cared for me like their own, and they eventually went on to informally adopt me.
Your mum will be proud.
My family was an accident, but without a doubt the best accident I will ever have in my life. They were initially only another 1-month placement, but it's been 15 years and counting. My foster care is now my mother, and I am her child. I've since been to university, and I've started a business making tailored women's wear. I'm just starting out, so if you know anyone who can help who would like to buy clothing, like the dress that I'm wearing tonight, please let them know.
Well done, Claire. Well done, Claire. Well done, Claire. This journey has been all about inspiring young people in care to achieve.
If I could say anything to a child in care right now, anything is possible. Put your mind to it and do it. You know, there's nothing stopping you. Just because you're a foster child does not mean that you don't have the same privileges or you can't go on to do anything. You know, you can go on to be absolutely anything that you want. Put your mind to it, do it, and do it well.
But overall, it's been about encouraging potential new foster carers. I'm hoping that there are parents out there listening that will open their heart and mind to it and bring a child into their home and give them the love and security they so crave for. I mean, it is hard work. Nobody's saying it isn't. At the same time, it can be very rewarding.
If you've got a spare bedroom, it's for a child, and do whatever you can.